On that note, I want to talk about the birthright situation with Trump and the 14th Amendment. So apparently, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, has hinted that he's going to use an executive order to stop the loophole, as he would call it, or some would call it, where illegal immigrants can come here from all over. It happens from Russia. I know it's funny, the liberal media says, oh my God, Trump hate, but I saw liberal articles where they were saying Russian people were coming here and having babies to stay here. So it's like they don't like Russians. Anyway, the story is he's trying to end the loophole. If you're an illegal, you have a baby here, now you're a citizen or they're a citizen, the kid's a citizen, so it's kind of getting around the system. I'm going to read the 14th Amendment because liberals are saying it breaks the 14th Amendment. Conservatives are saying it doesn't. The 14th Amendment reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state where they reside. So the part of this that makes it tricky is subject to the jurisdiction of. Conservative media says subject to the jurisdiction of means, or originally was put there to say that certain Native American tribes were not citizens, even though they were born there, because they had their own legislation and stuff at the time. So, I'm not a lawyer, obviously. You could probably tell that by now. I don't know exactly what the wording means. I don't like fancy wording because they always end up like this, using it against you. But I'll just tell my personal perspective on birthright and what I think people are getting wrong. So my big beef with the liberal, progressive, left-wing agenda is I get the love, I get the compassion. I know that another, Kanye was saying, people seeking asylum need love and compassion, for sure. But when you're super, super weak and you're super, super foolish and you're super, super kind past the point of kindness where you're actually not being kind to yourself and kind to the people who live here, you're easy to take advantage of. It's like someone who leaves their door open and says, you could eat anything in my fridge at any time. And then you start eating everything all the time and they're attracting thousands upon tens of thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people. That's not originally what it was there for. So I find the left-wing agenda just a little naive because, of course, people are doing it from Russia, people are doing it from Mexico, people are doing it from South America. If you're incentivizing people to bring children and have children in the United States and rewarding people for having children in the United States, then why wouldn't they? It's part of the problem with the welfare system. It's okay to help people who are poor, for sure. It's good to help people who have kids. But when you have a welfare system that gives you money for each kid you have, people are having 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids, not because they want 6 kids, not because they could raise 6 kids. Many people can't. They're having 6 kids because they get more money to have something. So the system needs to be reworked on the liberal and progressive side. I'm not saying to take out the love and compassion or pull it out completely, but everything in this country is being incentivized towards doing things that don't better the interests of the whole nation. So if you could come here with a kid and liberal media will give you $20 million in a GoFundMe account and they'll give you asylum for no reason or just because you came, then what do you think is going to happen? I always reference, because it's true, the Huffington Post did a report. It's true that they did a report. I don't know how true the numbers are, but Huffington Post, liberal organization, did a report and said that 80% of the young women and girls coming to the United States are being raped when they're illegally crossing. So that's an 80% rape rate, according to liberal media, not me, of people crossing. And now you're incentivizing people to bring children. So you talk to anybody from South America or Mexico or from the United States that actually have, a shred of common sense. Of course, it's attracting thousands of people to bring their kids, to have kids here, and also to kidnap kids. There's a lot of kid kidnapping and stealing because if you come alone, you get no love in the United States. But if you kidnap a kid and bring them to the United States, you might fall onto $1 million GoFundMe account. You might get media support. You might get to stay here. You probably will get to stay here, even if you kidnap a kid and bring it over. I'm not saying our laws are that weak, but if liberals had their way, they would be. They're definitely moving towards that way. So I can't predict what this Constitution means. I support the Constitution, but as far as that little clause, the jurisdiction thereof, I don't know how to interpret that. You can go to a lawyer and they'll tell you. But what I can tell you is common sense approach, which is we can't be weak and foolish and naive. So something has to be done. Of course, if you don't change the birthright rule, there's going to be millions of people who come to this country and have a kid just so their kid lives here. Just like they're kidnapping and raping kids and bringing kids all the time, because why wouldn't they? So, maybe unpopular, but probably true. Maybe it will be more popular than I think. I don't know. I don't really care at this point. But something has to be done with the welfare program. Something has to be done with illegal immigration. You can't incentivize people to do the wrong thing. Another example of this foolish leftist ideology you could find on the streets of San Francisco and Los Angeles. It's okay to help homeless people. It's good to help homeless people. But if you incentivize being homeless, if you literally give money and constantly give too many support nets to people, they'll never grow up and they'll never get out of it. Not everybody's homeless because they need a job or they need money. To be honest, people don't want to do the real reporting, but most people are homeless probably not because they need a job. There's probably very few homeless people that need a job. There's a lot of mentally ill people who need a lot of help. There's a lot of people who weren't mentally ill who are now mentally ill because they've done a lot of drugs. And there's a lot of crackheads and a lot of people who need other sorts of help, not just financial help. So the system is messed up. It's actually creating more homeless people. There's empty homeless shelters all over the place. There's multiple organizations always feeding and cleaning and doing stuff with them. I'm not saying to stop doing it. Definitely help people, and some homeless people are nicer than not homeless people. I find sometimes the homeless people are the nicest people on the block. But you got to figure out a system that helps people without just leaving them there and incentivizing it. It's like your kid. If you're too nice to your kid grows up to be a P-U-S-S, you're puss. So I don't curse. Your kid grows up to be soft. Your kid grows up to be weak. Your kid grows up to feel offended by fictional characters on The Simpsons. That's what happens when you're too nice to your kid. If you're too mean to your kid, it's not good either. It's got to be a middle ground. You got to be nice to them, but you have to incentivize them to go out in the world and make something of themselves, and to incentivize them to be strong for the obstacles that the world faces. You can't just be super nice to your kid, because then they're going to probably be a loser. Or maybe not. Hopefully they're not. Just like homeless, hopefully they get it. But it is an ideology that I find doesn't work. And it's happening with the birthright. It's happening with illegal immigrants. It's happening with refugees. It's happening with homeless. And that's why there's homeless people crapping all over the streets in San Francisco. That's why 25%, according to my friend from Syria, of the refugees in Europe are ISIS members. So you have hundreds of thousands of ISIS affiliates running around Europe, because that's what happens when you go too far left and you become too weak and naive. So we need a balance. We need love and compassion for sure. But this foolishness, which you find on the left, and like I said, both sides are mean, but I lean right. It's not because I think Republicans are perfect. To be honest, just go on Twitter. You'll find a bunch of lunatic Republicans, just like liberals, constantly fighting, making stuff up, lying, not supporting freedom of speech or political correctness when it's convenient for them. They all do it. I'm not saying the reason I'm going right is because it's less taxes, less political correctness by a little bit, and also I just like Trump. I don't know. I don't like the Republican Party. I don't like the Democratic Party. I like Trump. I find that Trump is a little bit outside of that. Maybe not completely. He's not ending all poverty in the war, but he's like a wrench in the system, and he's I find very common sense, disagreeing with both sides. So it's like, that's just how I feel. Thank you guys for joining. I got to head out. I'm going to be on the Hageman Report tonight, so check that out. Tune in, Hageman Report, if you want to hear that. I was on Owen Benjamin earlier today if you want to hear that. And if you're sick of me, turn off your phone, go for a jog or something, I don't know. But not in a cornfield by yourself or something. Sounds like a bad idea. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Have a good week. Hopefully this didn't rub too many people the wrong way. I don't know. Who cares? Have a good